Hello everyone and welcome back to the 100k budget fuel challenge. I don't have anything else to say, so let's get into it. So, with the tournament back up on its feet, we can continue to determine who is the fastest but also most fuel efficient car of them all. For round 5, we're scaling things back a bit with fuel consumption set to 10x to avoid another mass extinction event. You've already heard me explain the rules in previous rounds, but I'll go over them again. Bottom 2 of each heat is eliminated, but only if no one runs out of fuel in the said races. Oh, and if you're wondering, there's gonna be 3 heats of 8. Either way, with all of that explained, let's get on with the said races. So, for the first heat, we have Arcadely, Dromanas Dromanani, Marzo, Viv, Ferrari GT Sport, Vigilante SVT, Kirby, and Freddy Fuel Bear. As soon as the race starts, Dromanas Dromanani gets overtaken by Viv, Marzo, and Ferrari. But that's not all, because the Golf Mark 1 also gets overtaken by the M2 competition. However, unlike the other 3, the Golf Mark 1 actually overtakes Kirby back. Heading into this section of the track, it looks like Viv and Ferrari have taken the top 2 spots. And now the S15 is trying to make sure that the Crossbow R does not overtake it. While that is happening, Dromanas Dromanani unfortunately lost his positions to Freddy Fuel Bear and Kirby, leaving Marzo and Vigilante SVT as the last ones to overtake the Golf Mark 1. Even then, it wasn't until the very next corner that Marzo and Vigilante SVT both successfully overtook Dromanas Dromanani. Him being completely left behind in last place means that the only hope of him making it to the next round is if somebody runs out of fuel. Either way, not only did Freddy Fuel Bear and Kirby make it past Dromanas Dromanani, but they also made it past the Demio as well. Meaning that just like Dromanas Dromanani earlier, Arcadely will now have to make sure that Marzo and Vigilante SVT do not overtake him. In fact, he has to do that sooner rather than later because the DS3 already closed in the gap between him. Same can be said for Vigilante SVT, although he is not in overtaking distance. But wait a second, Marzo's not in overtaking distance either? Wait, what? The Demio actually gapped the 2 of them? Okay, that wasn't expected. Either way, they close in the gap between him with Vigilante SVT successfully overtaking the Demio on the straight. Marzo, on the other hand, is being cock-blocked by Arcadely right now. With its newly found freedom of not being held off by anyone, the Vigilante 8 mobile is now off to try to catch back up to its competition. And we'll see if he succeeds in doing that on the second lap. For now, the camera is panned over at Marzo, who is trying to overtake Arcadely again, and he actually succeeds in doing that this time. Just like Dromanas Dromanani, if no one runs out of fuel, Arcadely is pretty much screwed. Meanwhile, in the front, it looks like Viv has dropped down to 3rd place. As you can see, thanks to the replay camera, he was unable to make sure the C7 Corvette and Crossbow R did not overtake him. But speaking of which, Ferrari is now trying to make sure that the C7 Corvette of Freddy Fuel Bears does not claim 1st place. However, his attempt may not entirely be successful, because the Crossbow R's straight line speed is just not very good compared to the C7. Thanks to that and superior acceleration, Freddy Fuel Bear closes in the gap between Ferrari. Thankfully for Ferrari's case, he is easily able to make sure that the Crossbow R does not get overtaken. Another high-speed section, and Freddy Fuel Bear uses it to his advantage. Unfortunately for him, however, this is another case of you may be in overtaking distance, but that doesn't immediately guarantee an overtake. Further back, Viv is now trying to make sure that Kirby does not close in the gap between him. What I also feel like is noteworthy is that Vigilante SVT successfully pulled away from Marzo. And if you're wondering, yes, Marzo was indeed able to pull away from Arcadely in the Demio, which itself, like I said earlier, is unable to compete against its competition, and same can be said for Jomnas Jomnani in the Golf Mark 1. I kinda feel bad for the Golf and the Demio, honestly, but then at the same time, I guess this outcome was to be expected. Either way, through the final straight we go, as Marzo's DS3 continues to make sure that the gap between him and the danger zone does not shrink. And with us reaching the final lap, it looks like Vigilante SVT was in fact not able to catch back up to his competition. If anything, he kinda just got left in the middle of the grid with nothing to do. But someone who does have something entertaining going on their end is Kirby, because the M2 competition of his is slowly but steadily catching up to Viz S15. Although he isn't really in overtaking distance of the S15 yet. Still, just because he's not able to reach overtaking distance now doesn't mean he won't be able to reach it later. Heading into this high-speed section, the M2 competition is refusing to let go of a potential podium spot, while V in the S15 is trying to make sure that him staying in third place continues to be the case. In the meantime, Ferrari was unfortunately not able to keep Freddy Fuelbear in second place. As a result, the Crossbow R ended up falling down to second place with Freddy Fuelbear taking first. Even then, Ferrari had a great run at making sure that wasn't gonna be the case. Regardless, heading through the final straight of the track, even though he has burned through a lot of fuel, it's not enough to eliminate him by running out. Not even going flat out at 200 kilometers an hour can change that fact. I know you were probably wondering when I was gonna say it again, so I'll say it. It looks like the finishing order is set in stone. The C7 Corvette casually drives through the start-finish straight, as it looks like Freddy Fuelbear has earned himself a first place spot. And if you're wondering, Ferrari in second place is not close to running out either. Not only that, but it also looks like the Vic Kirby fight comes to a close, successfully reaching the finish line without running out and successfully overtaking Vic, who as a result is placing fourth while he is placing third. Vigilante SVT also seems to be low on fuel, but just like in Kirby's case, it's not enough to actually eliminate him before crossing the finish line though. And it looks like the last safe spot in this race goes to Marzo in the DS3, as he successfully made sure the gap between him and the danger zone did not shrink. Jomnas Jomnani and Arcadely on the other hand are out of here. For the second heat, we have dog-hitting Hamster, the Sigma Thruster, Stoleless Enthusiast, Marionette, Agato, Dryriser, Inlet, A-Lord, GT, and Bastardizer. Starting off the race with what looks like dog-hitting Hamster being overtaken by the Sigma Thruster. Matter of fact, it's not just him who ended up overtaking the Auto Bianchi, it's pretty much everybody in the grid. It also looks like the Sigma Thruster has been overtaken by Agato, Dryriser, Inlet, and Bastardizer. And that's not all, because Marionette also successfully overtakes the Sigma Thruster, leaving A-Lord GT, Stoleless Enthusiast, and dog-hitting Hamster as the only people to not overtake the Sigma Thruster. But that doesn't seem to be much of a problem for A-Lord anyways, because he already closed in the gap between them again. Alongside that, Stoleless Enthusiast also catches up to them again, who, if you're wondering, fell down to 6th place because A-Lord's 370Z successfully overtook him, with Stoleless Enthusiast also trying to do the same overtaking maneuver. He reached overtaking distance, and he was actually able to overtake the Sigma Thruster for a moment, but it wasn't enough to firmly cement that position gain. As a result, the FTO is still in the danger zone. But not to worry, because another high-speed section means that he will be able to overtake again. And in fact, he does. The Sigma thruster enters the danger zone, with Dog hitting Hamster also closing in the gap between him. However, unlike the FTO, he isn't really able to overtake him. Not only that, but the gap immediately grew between the Autobianchi and the Megane as soon as we reached the speed section. But enough about the Sigma thruster and the bottom placers. Marionette successfully pulled away from the bottom 3, and same can be said for A-Lord GT, who heading into the second lap are now trying to catch back up to the front runners. Speaking of which, Agato has been overtaken by Bastardizer and Dry Riser Inlet, the latter of which takes first place in their C4 Corvette. But they're not alone, because Bastardizer is following right behind in second place. Not just that, but the RCF also seems to be closing in the gap between the C4 Corvette. From what I can tell, Agato in the WRX has been left behind by both of them to battle against A-Lord. And I'm actually kind of excited to see whether or not Agato will be able to keep the podium spot. Switching the camera over to him, yeah, it's entirely possible that he might be able to keep the podium spot for himself. Like, look at this gap between the 370Z. That to me just screams we're gonna be here a while trying to catch back up on A-Lord's side of things. He tries to close in the gap between him and the WRX somewhat. However, the upcoming braking zone prevents him from being able to do that yet. While he continues to try to close in the gap between the WRX, Bastardizer actually seems to be struggling a bit with catching up to Dry Riser Inlet, as I'm guessing their C4 Corvette is way more difficult to battle against than he initially thought. But that doesn't stop him from trying to catch up to the C4 Corvette. The RCF makes it into another high-speed section, successfully closing in the gap between Dry Riser Inlet, but doesn't overtake because the RCF let go off the gas pedal for some reason. Heading into the final... Wait, what is the RCF doing? Did it seriously just throw away a perfect opportunity to Oh no, I just realized he wanted to go to the pits, that's why he slowed down. You're telling me Bastardizer did all of that just to eliminate himself by going to the pits? Honestly, that's just... I don't understand. Anyways, I guess whatever that was basically just eliminated the little competition Dry Riser Inlet had for first place. In the meantime, A-Lord GT successfully overtook Agato, but it doesn't even matter because the RCF going to the pits means that the WRX of Agato's was easily able to climb back up to the podium. There's nothing much to note down on the Swift really, just know that Marionette has kind of just been chilling in the middle of the grid this entire race. Same for Stoleless Enthusiast, who pulled away from the bottom 2 placers. And while we're on the topic of them, the RCF abruptly giving up out of nowhere means that the bottom 2 is eliminated thing no longer applies to this race. So in other words, all Dog hitting Hamster and the Sigma thruster have to do now is to just cross the finish line before they themselves run out of fuel. Which, given that one is an Autobianchi and the other is a Megane, that should be a pretty easy task for them. And if you didn't notice, no, Dog hitting Hamster in fact was not able to overtake the Sigma thruster. Regardless, they may still be in the bottom 2, but at least they won't be getting eliminated because of that fact. Meanwhile, Stoleless Enthusiast, like I said earlier, is kind of just chilling in the middle of nowhere in the grid with nothing to do. Same for Marionette, they are kind of just not the sole focus of this race, it appears. However, I wouldn't say that's necessarily a bad thing. Anyways, enough of going off topic. With everybody having such huge gaps over each other, I'd say we have our final finishing order. They now just have to cross the finish line in order to confirm it. After everything that happened, Dry Riser Inlet wins this race by a landslide at the cost of losing a friend in the process. someone who is following their C4 Corvette not long after is A-Lord GT in 2nd place. The bronze medal of 3rd place goes to Agato in the WRX, successfully advancing alongside the 2 people that finished before him. The RCF's finish doesn't really matter because Bastardizer already disqualified himself earlier. Instead, the 4th place goes to Marionette in the Suzuki Swift, who, as you can easily guess, is not getting eliminated today either. Plus, the Swift crossing the finish line does nothing but confirm that. Stoleless Enthusiast is not gonna be running out of fuel either. If anything, his fuel tank is still halfway full, and so he advances to the next round with ease. But let's not forget about the Sigma Thruster and Dog-Hitting Hamster, who are also still in this. But from what I can tell, they in fact are not following Bastardizer's footsteps in being eliminated by running out of fuel. For the 3rd heat, we have Tendril, Terra Hawkizard, Zetsu, Spike 1999, Cassidy J, Reagan, Pin, and Julie Kanoto. Off the start line we go. Right away, Terra manages to overtake Tendril alongside Zetsu. But unfortunately for Tendril, that's not the end, because Reagan, Spike 1999, Julie Kanoto, and Cassidy J also overtook him. They are now trying to catch up to Terra, who is in 1st place currently, with what looks like Spike 1999 and Julie Kanoto immediately succeeding in doing that. One simple corner session later and Julie Kanoto gets overtaken by Zetsu, which results in Spike 1999 being the first one to close in the gap between the Super Beast. And he now heads off into this high-speed section with him trying to overtake the said Super Beast. And while Zetsu and Julie Kanoto are now trying to do the exact same thing, it's not over yet for Tendril because there is still one person stuck behind him, and that person is Pin. Not to worry though for Pin because he overtakes the 205. Wait, the 205 actually overtakes it back? Man, it really does look like Tendril is trying to cling on to 7th place. Another speed section came around and Pin managed to overtake the 205, claiming 7th place for himself heading into this braking zone. That is, if Tendril didn't overtake him back a 2nd time. And so the GTO has to overtake the 205 a 3rd time on this speed section. He once again closes in the gap between Tendril, finds an overtaking opportunity and gladly takes it, allowing him to successfully overtake the 205 GTI for real this time. While that was happening in the back of the grid, in the front, Terra in the Super Beast was in 1st place, until he got overtaken by Spike 1999 and Julie Kanoto, the latter of which has already zoomed off in 1st place heading into the 2nd lap, and the former is now in 2nd place. And when I say the RX-8 zoomed off, I really mean it. How far back this replay camera went when switching to Spike 1999 should tell you more than enough. Either way, Terra is now trying to make sure nobody else overtakes him, as it looks like the next person he has to cock block is Reagan in the pits, who just like Spike 1999 was successfully able to overtake Zetsu. He is now in 5th place battling against Cassidy J's Focus ST. The pits successfully closes in the gap between the Super Beast on this section, although something he didn't account for is how tight this track is at times. Because of that, Reagan wasn't able to overtake. During all of that, Pin in 7th place has been busy trying to catch back up to his competition, and it appears he is already halfway done with doing that. Meanwhile on the podium, Reagan once again fails to overtake the Super Beast. As you can see, Terra is actually putting up a fight against the pits. Speaking of the pits, Reagan is once again trying to find an overtaking opportunity, But unfortunately, he is just not able to do that on the straight. However, the braking zone is a completely different story. Spike 1999 successfully pulled away from his competition, but while he is now going through the speed section, Reagan has successfully overtaken Terra. Not only that, but Pin might potentially get out of the danger zone with him being very close to Cassidy J now. See that? The GTO has made massive progress in terms of catching up to his competition. And it's not just Cassidy J who has a potential threat on the horizon, but Zetsu as well. But if you're wondering, no, Terra was not able to fight back against the pits. What makes Terra's situation worse is that Zetsu and Cassidy J are right behind him now. And with one lap remaining, things are about to get real interesting for the not podium placers. Cassidy J in the Focus once again tries to close in the gap between the 4C and overtake it. However, he does not succeed in doing that. But what they do succeed in is slowly closing in the gap between the Super Beast, and same can be said for Pin. Although the GTO of his is way farther behind compared to them two. The Super Beast continues to try to make sure they do not catch up to him. However, it's not 100% guaranteed that the said attempt is going to be a successful one. In the meantime, Pin successfully closes in the gap between the Focus ST and nearly overtakes it. As for Zetsu in the 4C, he successfully closed in the gap between the Super Beast. So in other words, Terra's plan at making sure no one catches up to him completely backfired. And it shows on this speed section. Zetsu successfully finds an overtaking opportunity and takes it. Not only that, but the Super Beast braking earlier than others also allows Cassidy J and Pin to catch up to him. The Focus ST tries to go for an overtaking opportunity but fails, allowing Terra to stay in 5th place on the speed section. But that doesn't last long because Cassidy J tries to overtake him again on the braking zone and he succeeds this time. Meaning that all he can do now is to try to make sure Pin doesn't overtake him too. Reagan and Spike 1999 are kinda just chilling, there's not much else to note down here. And to nobody's surprise, Julie Kanoto in the RX-8 finishes first. In the Civic's case, there isn't really anything else for it to do. Spike 1999 now just needs to confirm his placement by crossing the finish line. His fuel tank may already be less than half full, but that does not stop him from claiming 2nd place. Following him not long after is Reagan in 3rd place, while Zetsu's 4th, Cassidy J's 5th, and by the very skin of his teeth, Terra Hawkizard manages to make it to the finish line in 6th, outlasting Pin, who is eliminated alongside Tendril. And that's about it for round 5. If you enjoyed it, which I know you did, like the video, and maybe even consider subscribing, I would really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in round 6.